here we are. We had our conference in October, and it was a great moment. I think when Natalia said earlier about how touched she was by bishops stopping her and asking, for her opinion, or saying, "I liked what you had to say." It was a moment for those of us who were theologians and those who were bishops that we appreciated one another's competency. And I think when Kate said earlier that we're at your service, we mean it. I will be sending you a letter, a follow-up letter with the emails of each of the speakers, so that if you want to contact one of them to do something for you, you can. They are most willing. They're doing this trip for the three gratis. So there are 9 of us who are traveling through for an entire week, none who are being paid other than salaries from their other positions that they're allowing them to go. But we are very interested in serving the leadership of the church in terms of moving forward. So I guess I'm making an appeal of how you think we should be moving forward. We believe, and this is in conversations with Cardinal Supich and Archbishop Gregory, with Cardinal Farrell, with Cardinal Wuerl, Cardinal Tobin, and with Bishop McElroy, that the best way to move forward is to get bishops in the dialogue, to have bishops like yourselves. We on Wednesday, we have 15 bishops coming to Notre Dame. They will be also met by Cardinals Tobin and Supich. We go out to Santa Clara, another 15 bishops will be coming there, and that will be with Bishop McElroy and Bishop Stephen Biegler. And there were 15 bishops already involved in this in October. But we're really interested in somehow seeing how it's going to be received. And one of the interesting things is what I thought what John Hurley was saying earlier, that the model that they ended up doing in developing a model for proceeding was not one model for the diocese, but a particular model for each parish or for each local church there. I think that's the same thing that we have to be looking for in the States. But I do think we have to be looking for a mentality that appreciates the newness of Amoris Laetitia. The fact that we're talking about something ordinary, the ordinary lives. I think the big takeaway, everybody's going to, we won't print this, I will write this up and anything, but I think when Bishop Amber told us the story of your cousin with IVF, is a story that helped those of us who are theologians to really appreciate the point of view of bishops when they're in situations like this. But I do think that this is an important thing that we're doing. You've invested your time by coming here and your energy in a very, very busy schedule, especially after yesterday's right of election. But if you have any ideas of how we should be moving this forward, other than by occasioning the dialogue between bishops and theologians trying to minister to the church, let me know, because we're interested in taking this forward. And one thing we'll be doing is, Josh McElwee asked me to write a reflection, a sustained reflection for NCR on Thursday as I finish at the 3, just as the reflection of where we are and where we're trying to go. Bishop?
Jack, I'm just thinking, we're the bishops, but the key people in all this are going to be our pastors and priests.
Yes, well, that's what you were saying earlier.
And how do we get across to them? It's all relationship. We're talking about colleges and so forth. And how do we get them, and we have issues with foreign priests and how to get them enculturated, and then you worry about, how do we present to them or how they, it's going to be the key for me anyway. I'm going to go back to my priests and see how we can implement.
So one thing that we did interesting is that we have a very small book coming out, but it's 18 chapters, 1,500 words a chapter, so very brief chapters that Archbishop Gregory is in, Jack is in. There's a number of us in it, but it's like a companion to the Amoris Laetitia, so that maybe this could be gifts that we give to. But Paulus is putting that out next month. I also know that another press is done something for Tom Roush, in which they've done like a a reader. In France, they took two a theologian and a pastor to work together on each of the 9 chapters. And it was basically, how could you use this in your local church? So it's with all sorts of, secondary literature that you could avail, links to things online so that you could, if you're doing something on chapter 4, you're doing something on chapter 2, you're doing something on chapter 8, you could use that. But I think this question about the priests and the lay ministers and parishes, about how do we get them to receive this, will be something about developing useful devices, resources that they can move forward. John?
Jim, one of the things I was thinking of is a model that could be helpful for bishops, having been being in diocesan ministry myself, is to use Amoris as an overlay how we deal with each of the constituencies within the diocese. I find very often that among the priests there's great division. Great blessings as well, as Archbishop Gregory said, but then when it gets too dominant in the presbyterate, then others get threatened and all of those sorts of things, the younger generation. If we, at a higher level, looked at all of those differences and applied the same fabric of Amoris to the groups we have closest to us or to the bishops, I think Amoris can work in that kind of situation. How do we deal with some of our priests that make them on the margins? I think more and more rectories aren't even having dinners together. They're getting the food allowances, which is, I think, further breaking down in the presbytery. So I think as we look, we are living with fracture around us, and one of the ways that we can use this document as a framework for how we reach out and embrace that we care. It's really, I think, the key word there in that context.
Thank you. Bishop?
I think the way in which Pope Francis writes sets the stage for what I want to say, but this is just to commend you, Jim, and your team. All of you have this really wonderful capacity to speak as theologians, canonists, but with a language that really made what you had to offer very understandable to us as pastors. And I would just like to say thank you for that. That made it much, much more appealing and helpful.
We had in Orlando, Bishop New hosted us the Convocation of Catholic Leaders in July. And there was a lot of enthusiasm that was generated at that convocation, and just to see 3,000 Catholic leaders from all over the country to come together. But one of the questions that was asked, and I don't know if the bishops that were there or anybody who was there remembers this, was the convocation going to give us a template or a plan to go forward? And the answer was, well, no, that's up to each individual diocese. And it seems to me that the template that you have here would be a very real template for dioceses to pick up on that enthusiasm and to move forward on. So maybe if somebody could be in touch with the USCCB and the group that planned that convocation of Catholic leaders to roll this out to the dioceses, that would be a great service.
Right. So even like Cardinal Supich, he sent me a text at about 11:30 because he knew lunch was at 11:30. He said, "Can you call me when you start lunch?" So and he just wanted an update of how we're proceeding and stuff to get ready for Notre Dame and for the other places. So I think we need to think this through. I think that the fact that we have some books coming out on Amoris to help people, to help especially pastors just feel that if they want to check something, it's there. But I do think we have to figure out a trajectory for where we go beyond. So you'll be hearing from us about that. On that note, I want to thank Tony Ross. Tony. Tony Ross was known for working in the theology department for some 23 years, and I got the directorship of the Jesuit Institute, and I said, do you want to come to manage a Jesuit Institute where we can work on a variety of other projects? And so she has. So she has now had contact with church leaders around the world, and manages to understand the world that we all work in, but manages to make accessible the worlds that we can meet in. So a special word of thanks. And thanks to you for all coming and for being involved in this project. So.
Thank you, Jim.